All right, welcome back to the second ever solo edition of the First and 35 podcast. I'm your host, Gus Cousins, if you don't already know. And this is the second week that I'm going to try recording this on my own, by myself, which is sort of depressing, but hey, I'm still here and I'm still talking, so I guess it's something to do, other than sit in my basement and do nothing for the rest of my time in quarantine. So that's a little change in my day, which will be nice. The first episode, I think I actually put together pretty good, considering I had never edited anything together in my life. I don't know what I'm gonna do next week because the app I used to, make the episode last weekend, it was a free trial. So today's the last day of that free trial. So I'm gonna record this. I'm gonna see if I can throw it all together, put it up on YouTube right away, and then the free trial ends. So next weekend I'll have to figure out something completely new. But hey, at least it'll be a fun experience while it lasts, unless I get completely irritated trying to figure out how to do it. But last week's episode, I think, went pretty well, in my opinion, anyways, because it was my first time doing anything, recording on my own, uploading to YouTube, which is very, very simple in general. But to me, who's completely clueless about that because I relied on our former administrator to deal with that sort of thing, I never really had to think twice about that, whereas last week, I actually had to go in on my own and figure that out and be like, hey, where do I put this? Do I upload this? Do I put this on my Google Drive? It was such a pain in the butt to actually throw it all together in the app and then, finish copy and upload it. And I know it sounds like I'm just the dumb one here. I admit that I am. But it was a very, very different experience because it was my first time ever doing it. So I think it turned out pretty well. Obviously, it didn't turn out as good looking wise as when our former administrator dealt with it and uploaded it. So hopefully I can, in the next few hours after this, figure that all out and make it look a little bit better and throw it up. But I think in general, A+ for effort. That's what I would give myself. But hey, there's still tons of room for improvement, obviously. And I think there's going to be plenty of time for me to do that, considering there is literally nothing else going on. But anyways, getting back to the sports, or starting with sports, I should say. Not a whole lot went on again. I say this every week now, so I really don't need to repeat myself too much. But the only live sporting event that happened in quite a while, and will probably be the only one to happen for quite a while longer, was the NFL draft. The big NFL draft started up a couple days ago. I think today we're on round 4, in the middle of round 4, and obviously there are 7 rounds, so we're about halfway, just over halfway there. But obviously, the first 3 rounds, really, 2, but maybe 3 in this case, because it was such a deep draft in every position. There were so many good players and quality players. It was so deep that the first 3 rounds, really, this year were big hits. And obviously, because we're all stuck inside, it was a virtual draft. Goodall was in his basement, live streaming the whole thing, telling us the picks, which was kind of weird, but kind of funny at the same time. They had fans calling in, through Zoom or through Skype or whatever. So they got everybody involved, and a lot of people were involved, and there were live streams obviously set up in the players' houses, so you could see their reaction when they were picked, if they were picked yet. I think it was a really, really good attempt. I know that it was the highest ever opening day ratings for the NFL draft. I think it was like 15.6 million people viewing it, as opposed to the second highest before this, which used to be around 12.6, I believe. So I think it's great that everybody, kind of got to relax just for a couple days, watch the NFL draft, because it's one of the most major sporting events, I would say, in the world, because the NFL is such a big league. And teams' futures are decided on their picks here. And I think a lot of good players, obviously a lot of good players, but a lot of really, really, I would go as far to say a couple of these guys, Hall of Fame level players, if they live up to the hype that they were supposed to live up to, picked like Joe Burrow, obviously, right off the bat. Everyone knew he was going to Cincinnati, no doubt about it. That was really the only, I guess the first 2 picks were kind of known, him and Chase Young going to Washington. But other than that, the draft really started at 3, and it was really interesting the first round, obviously. The Dolphins picking Tua after that big smokescreen attempt of them thinking, oh, we're going to get Herbert, are we going to get a lineman, all that. It was really, really intriguing to watch, and I think it was very fun to watch for a lot of people because they hadn't had the experience of watching a live sporting event, whether it was a game or not, in quite a while with all this virus stuff going on. So I think it was a nice break from that. I think it will continue to be a nice break. Stories are obviously going to come out now. This draft was supposed to be held in Las Vegas, as everybody knew. Allegedly, they're going to give Las Vegas another shot in 2022. Ideally, this whole thing is done by then. So I think that'll be good, that they'll finally get to go down to Las Vegas and use, the walkway and the boat on the little river there. And obviously, everyone's just going to go party afterwards. So I think it's a good setting then. It was unfortunate it couldn't happen this year, but for obviously all the right reasons, it just didn't happen. But the draft itself was very, very good. It was really interesting to watch. I think, realistically, the first, I don't know if you want to call it I don't even know, an odd pick, a weird pick, because all these players are so good, so really there's no bad picks early on. But when the Giants took offensive tackle Andrew Thomas at the 4th spot, that was the first real wow. I can't believe they made that decision, because there were so many linemen that were so good in this draft. One of the smoke screens that Miami put up there was that they were thinking of trying to trade up to that 3 spot from the Giants and draft a lineman so that they would have him and Tua at 3 and 5, or him and Herbert at the time, because no one really knew. Obviously, that didn't happen. The Giants got their guy. The Dolphins picked Tua at 5, and then the Chargers picked Justin Herbert right after that at 6, who I would be shocked if by the end of next season he was not starting games for the Los Angeles Chargers, or whatever they're called nowadays. LA Chargers? I guess that's what they are. But yeah, I think it was a really interesting first draft. Quite a few players actually fell. The first running back was taken as the last pick in the first round. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire by Kansas City, and a lot of people didn't have him as the first running back going. Now, there were a lot of good running backs. Obviously, him, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, all these guys, really, really good resumes. But that was kind of a shock as well to see that he was the first running back off the board. Obviously, he had a hell of a season at LSU, him and Joe Burrow. And I think he's going to be a great running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was a great pick, but again, it was just another surprise pick, I think. There were as I've said many times now, there were so many good players in this draft. There were so many round 1 talents that obviously not all of them went in round 1. That's why round 2 and 3 were so ridiculously interesting, because all these guys that had first round potential in many other years were falling, not because they were bad, but because there were so many other great football players out there. Obviously, Joe Burrow being, the top story of the day, because he was the first overall pick trying to lead the Bengals out of whatever the hell mess they're in. Chase Young was probably the best overall player in the NFL draft. And for, somebody saying, well, if he's the best overall player in the draft, why didn't Cincinnati take him? That's because Cincinnati really doesn't want Andy Dalton anymore. So I think Washington got one hell of an edge rusher in Chase Young, put up monster numbers at Ohio State. I think Detroit at 3 as well, picking a cornerback that they desperately need, and Jeff Okudah from Ohio State as well. Obviously, I can go on and on. I don't want to read through the entire list because all these guys are ridiculously good. But I think the biggest, most interesting part of this draft, unbiasedly, completely, was probably the Miami Dolphins, because nobody knew what they were going to do at 5. They put out such a good smokescreen that they could have taken Herbert, they could have taken Tua, they could have taken Derek Brown as a tackle, they could have taken Jedrick Wills from Alabama, they could have taken Becton from Louisville. They had a lot of guys. Is it a lineman? Is it a tackle? What's going on? Are they going to go with their quarterback? Is it going to be Herbert? They've said they've liked Herbert for a long time now. Are they going to go with him? Is Tua going to fall because of his injury status? And then they ended up picking Tua, which I personally believe has the highest potential in the NFL out of all these guys. Joe Burrow is better than him right now. I don't think Joe Burrow has the making of being a superstar quarterback for many, many years. Obviously, it might sound real rich that I'm saying that with Tua because of his injury history, and he could flame out right away. I think Tua is probably a better overall quarterback in the long run. He fits the Miami Dolphins scheme. Obviously, reports were out there that Miami was trying to trade up to get the first overall pick. I mean, that would never have happened and didn't end up happening because Burrow was Cincinnati's guy from day one. But I think that would have been interesting to see Would they have taken Burrow? Would they have taken Tua? Would they have screwed around? Because Miami had so many picks. They still have so many picks. I think they have 9 left still. Um, it's ridiculous. Obviously, I think, you go down the list. There were so many good, especially in this draft, linemen, tackles. Tristan Wirfs, he fell. Tampa traded up to get him at 13. They were originally at 14, so they swapped with San Francisco and a later round pick as well. They got Wirfs, who they desperately need, and they really, really liked, apparently. Jerry Jeudy, he was the best wide receiver in the draft, in my humble opinion. He went to Denver. He'll be alongside, their wide receiving core over there, and he'll help out. I don't know. Obviously, Drew Lock is probably going to start next year for them, so I think Drew Lock just got a lot of help with Jerry Jeudy because he put up monster numbers. I think, although Henry Ruggs got taken in front of him, obviously going to the new Las Vegas Raiders, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a hell of a lot better. I think there were so many good players that it's hard to decide. But I think in this case, Jerry Jeudy is going to be a ridiculously good wide receiver. He's insanely fast. He has great hands. Put up monster numbers in Alabama, where he played for however many seasons. I think every player in this draft, or I should say every team in this draft, in the first 3 rounds, got a starting caliber player, whether that's this year or next year. All of these guys can start and make a really, really big impact. And obviously, thanks for stating the obvious. That's why they drafted him. I'm saying they can be really, really, really good players. Not guys that just fill in, not guys that are just average or a little bit above average. I think you go down this list, every one of these guys, especially the linebackers as well, I think they have the potential to be really, really high-level players in the NFL. So many guys I liked. Miami, obviously, after picking Tua at 5, at 18, which was their next pick because they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they got their first-round pick. They picked Austin Jackson, an offensive lineman from USC, put up monster numbers at USC. That was right there. They got a quarterback, and then they got protection for him. And I believe they took a couple more later on in the draft. As well, they were getting, especially in the second round, I think they used either one or both of their second-round picks on tackles on linemen. So I think Tua already has a ton of support up front for him, which is great because if he is as injury-prone as people say he will be, getting all the necessary support you can is just going to be super ridiculously helpful for him in the long run because all these guys are so young. All these guys are obviously coming out of college. They're raw talent. Some are less raw than others. Some are more finely tuned than others. But in the case of Tua, he's so good all around that you can shove him in, whether it's a year down the road, if they want to throw Fitzy in for this year, say Tua, you're going to redshirt, you and Josh Rosen are going to deal with whatever issues you might have, and then next year is the year that you're actually going to start, which I think may be the plan, if Fitzy lives up to what he was doing at the end of last year for Miami. I think it's going to be a big help to have this large group of young guys, all of them obviously coming out of school at the same time, all going to this team, the Miami Dolphins, because they have so many picks. I think it'll be nice to have, almost Blue Jay style, right? How people were talking about you got to let the kids grow together. I think in this case, you have so many picks this year, next year, let them grow together. And I think it's great that you're getting guys to protect one another. Obviously, the linemen to protect Tua. Later on in the first round, 30 spot, Miami took a cornerback, and everybody was wondering, why are you taking a cornerback? You just signed the best cornerback on the free agent market, and you have Xavier Howard on the opposite side. Why do you need a cornerback? Well, you can never have too many cornerbacks. You can mess guys around. You guys can throw them at safety, at nickel. There's so many positions that you can play, especially with a versatile guy like Noah Igbinoghene. I think I might have just butchered that. I think actually Roger Goodell butchered that too. But he's ridiculously good. He's only played cornerback, I believe, for 2 seasons. He was a wide receiver before that. But he's versatile as hell. He can go all over the field on defense and special teams as well. There were so many of these guys that came out of the draft that you could bounce around position to position, mostly on defense, obviously, and then special teams. You can have a cornerback and a safety who can also return kicks. You can have a nickel and a safety who can also, cover the slot up the middle. I think there's so many fantastic players in this draft, and I think the team that probably, I wouldn't even say lost, because all these guys were so good. but was most disappointed from their fans was probably Green Bay, who got Jordan Love at 26, and then everybody went on a tear about Aaron Rodgers. Is he done? What's happening? Obviously, he won't be done this year because Jordan Love is not going to start this year for them. There's no chance in hell that is happening. But that they went up and they drafted the next guy in line after Rodgers leaves. Whenever Aaron Rodgers leaves, it's going to be Jordan Love starting for them because they picked him so high up. I thought he was going to be a second-round pick at the earliest. He, jumped up the draft charts there at the end. He was another guy that people were saying, if Miami does take a tackle at 5 and they don't trade, are they going to take Jordan Love at 18, which I think would have been completely ridiculous? Or would he fall more? Would he fall to them at 30? Would he be a second-round guy like a lot of people are saying? And obviously he ends up going at the 26th overall pick to Green Bay Packers. And I think it's going to be another year of disappointment because they don't have any other wide receivers other than Davante Adams. They don't. Aaron Rodgers has no help. Okay, you have Aaron Jones in the backfield. You have no help at wide receiver. None. Davante Adams can only do so much for them. And I think it's going to drive Aaron Rodgers crazy. I think it's nuts that it's been, I think, something ridiculous like 15 years in the first round and you did not get a dynamic offensive weapon. You've got, tackles. You've got, guys, defensive players, obviously. You have guys like Jordan Love, but you did not get a good wide receiver or any wide receiver. You did not get a really good running back, I don't think, either in that case. So I think it's another year that, fans for them are going to be really disappointed because you wanted another explosive weapon on the offense to help Aaron Rodgers and, take some of the pressure off Davante Adams. And you didn't get that. You didn't get it. He's going to redshirt for a year or be the backup, I guess. You're not going to need anyone to back up Aaron Rodgers. But, if Rodgers goes down, who are you going to have? You could throw Jordan Love in there to get some experience, but he's not going to be great. Not yet. You're not going to kick out Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love this year. If you waited a year, I'm not saying you're going to get a quarterback as good as Jordan Love next year. But if you didn't pick Jordan Love this year and you picked an offensive weapon, it would have made such a large difference in the response from your fan base. And I would know because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. I think I've watched year after year. This team, the last time they spent a first-round pick on a quarterback was Ryan Tannehill, who obviously is now balling out in Tennessee. And I do not think for a second he was as bad as people make him out to be in Miami. He was just never lived up to the hype. I don't know if they picked him at the 6th spot or the 8th spot, however many years ago. But I think it's good that they picked Tua. And I'm just saying, for a team like the Green Bay Packers, you need offensive weapons. Aaron Rodgers is a great all-time quarterback. Davante Adams is a great wide receiver. Aaron Jones is a really, really good running back. But you can't rely on just those 3 guys. And drafting in the first round a guy who's not going to play this year, if you think you have a window to win, as you did last year, whatever they finished, 12-4 or whatever, you have to take that chance. You have to get a wide receiver. You need to give Davante Adams help. You need to give Aaron Rodgers help. And so outside of that was a really questioning decision for me and for a lot of their fans. But I think, as I said, you go down the list, there's so many good players on so many different levels. Judy, as I've said, CeeDee Lamb is another good wide receiver. A lot of good cornerbacks, obviously starting with Jeff Okudah going to Detroit at 3. You go down the list, Jacksonville got the guy they wanted, C.J. Henderson, who's a ridiculously good cornerback, playing for Florida University. You go down even further, Atlanta getting the guy they wanted, A.J. Terrell from Clemson. Las Vegas, their Chicago pick that they got in the first round at 19. Damon Arnett, I think that was a bit of a stretch, but I think Damon Arnett is a really good cornerback. I think some of these guys you can say, Austin Jackson even at 18. That's a bit of a stretch. He put up great numbers. He's ready to go. Is he going to be great, as good as he can be in the first year? Maybe not. Is Damon Arnett going to be the league's best cornerback in the first year? No, probably not. But going down year after year after year, you have to look at what these guys can turn into and what they can grow into. And I think a lot of these guys can grow into really, really good football players. Even at 22, one of the guys I really liked, Minnesota's pick, Justin Jefferson. I think he was ridiculously underrated as a wide receiver in this draft. And you can say, well, how was he underrated? He got picked at 22 in the first round. I think he should have been right up there with Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. I think he put up ridiculously good numbers. He looks so good on the field. I think he's very comparable to Jeudy, Lamb, or Henry Ruggs. And obviously you can say, well, he got picked at 22. He's very, very good. I know he's very, very good. I'm not disputing that. I think he could have been picked higher because that's how good he was. And obviously the linebackers, there were a couple trades. The Chargers going up to get Kenneth Murray at 23. New Orleans, that was kind of a surprise. They picked Cesar Ruiz, a center, from Michigan at 24. Some of the guys think if you're going to get him, you should probably get a tackle as opposed to a center. I know they're pretty much the same thing, but you have a pretty good center already in New Orleans. Patrick Queen fell a little bit, I think. I think Patrick Queen could have been a little bit higher. Baltimore took him as a linebacker from LSU. I think he could have been a little bit higher. I think right before him and Jordan Brooks from Seattle. I think they probably could have flip-flopped those picks because I think Patrick Queen is probably going to end up being better than Jordan Brooks. Obviously, what the hell do I really know? Because I'm 17. I've only watched these guys, X amount of times. I ain't no analyst. I don't claim to be. But from what I've seen, I think Patrick Queen looked really, really good. And I think Baltimore got a really, really good steal, I would say, at 28 for him. And then you go down the list, obviously, and then you get into the second round. And I'm not going to go through all of it because I have a couple other piece of sports news to talk about too. But I think especially at 32 when Kansas City took Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU, I think that was really, really... His draft stock jumped a lot, I would say. I think he's ridiculously good, like I keep saying all these guys are. But I think when you have other guys like J.K. Dobbins, who I really, really liked, and Jonathan Taylor, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the consensus top running back in the draft. Doesn't mean he won't be. Kansas City obviously liked him. He's very, very good. He's super fast. Put up great numbers at LSU. But I think, in many people's opinions, the other running backs, like Dobbins, like Taylor, would have been above him on the depth chart of running backs. And that's not to say I don't like the pick. I think Kansas City, it's a great pick for them. I think it'll work out great for them. But I think you've got to keep in mind also that, some of these guys will not live up to their hype, even though I think they all could. Not all of them will. And I think that'll be, obviously, years down the road. How many of these guys actually turned out well? Well, we'll just obviously have to wait and see. And that'll be, years down the road before you can really decipher who's going to turn out how they thought they would be in college and who won't. As I've said, the fourth round, I think, is still ongoing. Plenty more players will be picked. Plenty more players. Guaranteed in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds will turn out to be stud players in the league. Not all of the top picks will be good. Not all of the later picks will be bad. So I think, take it with a grain of salt with all these picks. Do they look really good? Yeah. Are they going to be really good? Probably. But you never know until they step on the field and actually do it. And you can't judge that, I think, for at least 2 to 3 years down the road. And that's just me. But outside of the draft, as I talked for about 20 minutes here to start the podcast, other things happened in the NFL as well. The biggest piece of news before the draft was that the Buccaneers got Hall of Fame tight end Rob Gronkowski and a 7th rounder from the Patriots in exchange for a 4th rounder. Coming out of retirement to come play with Brady, said Brady, who got kicked out of a Tampa Bay park for practicing and walked into the wrong person's house. That Tom Brady. Tampa's treating him really well down there, I hear. But Gronkowski comes out of retirement. He's 30. He's a 4-time All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Great numbers his entire career. He's trouble staying healthy near the end. But him and Tom are going to try and get at least one more season of quality performance out of them in Tampa Bay for the Buccaneers. And I think giving up a 4th-round pick for Gronkowski, I mean, if he's healthy, sure, he had a year off. Why wouldn't he be healthy? Why wouldn't he be in shape? He's been working out. He's been doing WWE stuff. I think that's a great trade for the Buccaneers. I think if Tom's eventually going to go soon, and when he goes, Gronkowski goes, I think. Probably for good. So I think it'll be something interesting to watch, and if nothing else, it'll give Tampa Bay the attention that they really, really need down there. Houston Texans signed tackle Laramie Tunsil to a 3-year, $66 million deal. Remember him? He was the part of the big Texans-Dolphins trade at the beginning of last year that involved Houston sending 2 different first-round picks to the Miami Dolphins. Tunsil's 25. He also went there along with Kenny Stills. He's the highest paid tackle in the league now, put up monster numbers in his first season with Houston. He was set to hit the free agency open market after next season. He only had 1 year left on his deal, but they said, "Now we're going to sign you." Got absolutely paid. $22 million a year is ridiculous. And he'll come out of it at 28, and he'll still make even more money after that if he keeps putting up these numbers. So it's a good deal for him. And I think good deal for the Texans because he's so good. The Jaguars released wide receiver Marquise Lee. Super good wide receiver for them in 2016-2017. Injuries derailed his seasons in 2018-2019, and obviously they're going to let him go because they have guys like DJ Chark and, all these young wide receivers coming up to take the ball for them. And Marquise Lee just wasn't going to play. Last piece of NFL news, really. The Chargers unveiled their new uniforms, 6 different color combinations. The main 2 will be powder blue jerseys that everyone knows and loves, and obviously the white ones that every team has. But the powder blue ones are ridiculously nice. You take, the Minnesota Twins and the St. Louis Cardinals baby blue and combine them together, and you get this Chargers blue. I think it's such a nice jersey combination. I think it's far and away the nicest unveiling of a new uniform. The Buccaneers did it, Atlanta did it, New England, I should say, did it. I think Cleveland did it. I think far and away the Chargers had the best new jerseys, and I think it'll be ridiculously fun to watch them play, even if they suck, even if Justin Herbert sucks, Tyrod Taylor can't do anything, and Anthony Lynn can't get his act together. I think they'll at least lose looking good. After saying all that, I think I've probably completely exhausted my voice by now talking about the NFL. Obviously next weekend, if I can figure out how to actually record again and get this up. There'll be more to talk about then because the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds will be done. And we'll know where everybody's going. People will be signing undrafted free agents. It'll be a whole thing. It'll be a whole nother level, and I think it'll be some much needed relief to folks in the NFL for a bit as opposed to sitting in your house doing absolutely nothing, twiddling your thumbs all day, every day. But jumping to the NHL, because a little bit of stuff happened there as well. 3 pieces of news to pass along to you. The Blue Jackets signed goaltender Elvis Merzlikins to a 2-year, $8 million deal. He's 26, had 5 shutouts this season. Him and Corpus Allo both have done really, really well. He's 13-9-8 with putting up a .923 save percentage. Obviously, those 5 shutouts they weren't in a row, but they were all really close together near the end of before the season went on hiatus. I think $4 million a year is ridiculously good. I think it's great that they now have him and Corpusalo locked up for the near future because they're both really, really good young goaltenders. And Merzlikins looked really, really dominant for quite a few games there. The Golden Knights signed Nicholas Roy to a 2-year, $1.5 million deal. He only played 28 games before the season came to a crashing halt. 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points. He was a forward, obviously. And obviously they didn't like him enough to sign him to a 2-year deal. Really, really cheap, obviously, at 1.5, next to nothing in terms of cap hits. The Canadiens signed goaltender Vasily Demchenko from the KHL to a 1-year deal. He's 26. He put up 2.71 goals against average and a .906 save percentage through 14 games, playing for a team that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Obviously, he's just going to... I don't even know where he's really going to play. He's going to go to the minors, obviously. I couldn't tell you who they have as goaltending prospects off the top of my head, but I know they have a couple down there. And obviously, Carey Price isn't going anywhere yet. Not that I think Vasily Demchenko is actually going to kick him out, but I think you've got to put him on a roster somewhere. And I really don't know how that's going to work because I don't just know too much about the Montreal Canadiens. In terms of the MLB, their biggest piece of news during the week was the Red Sox cheating scandal, or investigation of the alleged scandal, I should say, came to an end in another really, really weak performance by the MLB front office, or the MLB as a league. The entire league just blew it again, I think. And I don't want to get too far into it because I think it's such a joke, it's nuts. Alex Cora, who was fired, doesn't really matter. He's banned through the 2020 playoffs, allegedly for only what he did in Houston. They banned the replay operator for the team through 2020, and in 2021 they either have to fire him or give him another job. And they lost a 2020 second-round pick. Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing. There is nothing that happened here. A second-round pick. Nice. Nice. You couldn't even take their first round pick. No, you had to take their second. You can get the first round pick. I don't know if they have a late first round pick, around, I don't know if they call it a round AB pick now, for a compensation deal. They couldn't get that pick. No, they said they banned the replay operator. No one's waiting to hear that. They didn't even get fined. They cheated and won a World Series. They didn't even get fined. What did Houston get fined? $5 million? These guys didn't even get $5 million? What? The core thing doesn't even matter. He's not even on a team. No one was going to hire him. The replay operator and nobody? They didn't even give a name, I don't think. Who cares? A second round pick? Big whoop. Big whoop. You did not hit them at all. Some people are saying, oh, he's encouraging cheating. No, I wouldn't go that far. I would just say it's really, really incompetent. They put out a report. I did read some of that report. The idea that you found nothing is absurd. Is ridiculously absurd, because we all know they did it. Did they do it like Houston? No, they weren't as bad as Houston. Doesn't matter. They did it. They did it. It was your job to go out and find what they did, and you didn't. You didn't. And when you go and say, we're only going to go and get Alex Cora because of what he did in Houston, go to hell. He did it in Boston. It does not take a genius to figure that out. It doesn't. I don't care. Obviously, all the Boston fans are going to be on their side saying, oh, no, we didn't cheat. Read the scandal or read the article, which shows we didn't do anything. That doesn't mean you didn't do anything, you dolts. That means the front offices in the MLB are so ridiculously stupid they couldn't find anything. Doesn't mean you didn't do it. Houston got off light, and everybody knew they did it. You guys got off even lighter. You won a World Series doing this, for Christ's sake. It's ridiculous. It's nuts. You hit them with nothing. You hit Houston with nothing. You hit Boston with nothing. I like Rob Manfred. I think he's done a decent enough job as a commissioner, because no one likes any commissioner. But I think he's done a decent enough job. I think this is a joke. I think the way he's handled this in Houston are a joke. I think the implementing of all these attempts at new rules is a joke. I think the 3-batter minimum is a joke. I think screwing around with the Atlantic League and Indian leagues, making them do, we're gonna move the mound back a foot or whatever it was. We're gonna use robot umps or electronic umps, yada yada yada, all these other things. I think that's a joke. I think you're pissing off the players, and I think no one wants to hear it. No one cares. Do I care whether a pitcher goes in, pitches to one batter or not? No, I don't. The casual fan doesn't. Nobody cares. If you like baseball, you are in it for the long haul. This is not going to help shorten the game. This isn't going to do any of that. Oh, okay, so you can lose a minute here and there. You can lose 30 seconds here and there. Nice. If you throw in a lefty, the entire idea of a lefty specialist has just been brutally murdered by Rob Manfred. There is nothing like that anymore. You can't say there is, because a lefty specialist, or a specialist in general, you can be a righty too, which people forget, is a specialist. You go in, you get 1 out, 2 outs. Rarely do you ever go in for a full inning of work as a specialist. And I think it's nuts that you just completely destroyed the idea of a specialist pitcher. What, to save a couple minutes? This is not going to bring back fans. This is not going to add fans. This is going to irritate players. This is going to irritate people like me who watch this for the thinking of the game planning, the management. What's going to happen? You just screwed. You royally shoved one up Craig Counsell's ass. He's getting screwed because Milwaukee did it all the time. I thought it was hilarious when they started in the playoffs against the Dodgers or whatever. Wade Miley for 1/3 of an inning or 1 inning and all that, and they just dicked around. I think that was hilarious. Did it take a while? Sure. Commercials. The companies producing those commercials are not going to complain. Do people hate commercials? Yeah. Do people think it's slow? Yeah, they do. Market better. Quit blacking out games. You want to dance and dodge around the fact that you are literally the sole reason as to why you people are losing interest. I cannot watch out west team. I cannot watch Southwest teams. I cannot watch teams in my own division sometimes. If I turn on only half the time, probably less actually, can I watch any AL Central team play. I can't watch the Twins. I can't watch the A's. I can't watch exciting teams like the Yankees or the Rays or Texas if they bounce back this year. I can't watch Mike Trout, the best player in the world, play. I can't watch people boo the Astros. I can't watch the World Series champion Washington Nationals play. You black everything out. You force people to pay. That's what's turning people away. Am I saying no one should ever pay for anything? Absolutely not. But I'm saying quit blacking out all these games. Every sport does it outside of the NFL. You black out games. Figure out another solution. Slowing the game down isn't killing it. It isn't killing interest. It's the fact that people cannot watch the teams that they want to watch. If I'm let's say, a Oakland A's fan, but I live in Toronto, I can't watch Oakland A's games. I can't. Because they're blacked out. You want to know why they're blacked out? Because you want me to pay for it. You want me, as, let's say I just moved from Oakland to Toronto yesterday, and I've been an A's fan all my life. And now, I come to Toronto. I can watch Toronto games. I can't watch any other team play. I can't watch the Baltimore Orioles suck. I have to pay absurd amount of money to go and watch the Oakland A's play. My hometown team. You're screwing fan bases over. You're screwing people over. That's how people lose interest when you can't watch something. If you've watched baseball for 5 straight years, hypothetically, and then somebody says, nah, you can't watch your team anymore. You can only watch these two, shitbird teams in a division you don't care about, teams that you don't even like in cities that you've never been to. But you can't watch anything else. You lose. I would kill myself if I had to sit through and watch Baltimore Oriole and Detroit Tiger games, and that was it for the entire year. I would not handle it. I would lose interest. Because you're stuck watching only one or two teams, some of which are bad, and it just kills you. It kills you because you can't watch the teams that you want to watch. So you want to talk about what's ruining the game. This isn't ruining the game. Killing time isn't ruining the game. Having a longer game isn't ruining the game. Decisions like this, letting teams off easy like the Red Sox and the Astros, blacking out games, changing the rules, that's ruining the game. Giving the Red Sox a pat on the back and say, just don't do it again, is not helping. It's ruining the game. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to see that. Anyways, the only other piece of baseball news I had was ex-right-handed reliever Rob Wooten announced his retirement. He's 34 now. He was the 13th round pick in 2008. Spent a bunch of his major league career, or the entirety of his major league career, I should say, with Milwaukee. Posted a 4-5, 5.03 ERA, 53 strikeouts, 71 MLB outings. 2 years in the majors, bounced around between Cincinnati and Atlanta, and maybe Cleveland in the minors the last few years. Never made it back up. And so he's calling it a career at 34. He had his first year in the major leagues, I believe he debuted at either 26 or 28. Put up pretty good numbers, I would say. In the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen, found himself a nice, I would say, almost a setup role. Following year, did decently as well, and then he just was lifted off the 40-man roster, never put back on, and that was it for his major league career. So although he didn't do too well, I would still say congratulations, because everybody that makes it to the major leagues, I think, has done really well in their lifetime. Outside of forgetting money, forgetting performance, I think if you can make it to the majors, you've done something great. So I think congratulations to him. I think he's had a nice career. I think anybody that makes it to the major leagues has had a nice career. That's about it. Obviously, the NFL draft took up the majority of this time, and next week it'll be the majority of the time as well. I haven't forgot about trying to get people on. I just figured this week's probably not the best because of the draft. I don't want to make this ridiculously long and try and get someone to talk to a baseball player and then talk about the draft separately. I would rather just divvy it up in 2 weeks. This is already, I think, at around 40 minutes. It'll probably be a little bit longer once I wrap this up and all that. But yeah, so I think the NFL draft is a nice thing to have. I think it's good it came at this time. I think it's relaxing for quite a few people like me who can sit down and actually watch, how are the Miami Dolphins doing? How are the Texans doing? What's going on? And yeah, I think it's a much needed break from the relative insanity that's going on in this world. And I know last week I went off because I was bored on a tangent about the Americans and all that. I'm not going to do that this week because I'm trying to stay in a happy, positive mood. But I think in general, this is a good thing to have. I think it's nice that before the draft they got Fauci in to do a speech talking about it. They had, all these guys, they're donating tons of money. People are donating tons of money to research for this, and I think it's great getting masks, protective equipment, and all that. I think it's for a really good cause. The NBA started selling masks now with 100% of the proceeds going to food banks here and there and everywhere, and I think that's great as well. I think so many people are helping out. I think it's unfortunate you have these morons who are protesting and saying, oh, it's not a big issue. People injecting themselves with Clorox now, which is an entirely separate issue. If you inject yourself with Clorox, I honest to God hope you never recover because you're just so ridiculously stupid that we don't even need you. Like, it's nuts. It's ridiculous. It's moronic. It's stupid. You're nuts. I don't even. How about Trump injects himself with Clorox? Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be really nice to see him do it. That'd be so much fun. You can live stream the whole event. That could be a pay-per-view. I would pay-per-view watch that. Paying lots of money to watch that idiot put himself into the ground. And it's stupid too because it's just hurting hospitals, right? All these hospitals are dealing with coronavirus that. And then you have these idiots coming and it's like, oh, I poured Clorox down my throat. Oh, I drank bleach. It's like, yeah, you did. You did. Like, why should we? I don't get why people should waste resources on trying to save people like that. I know you have to. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't know why we have to. I don't know what the logic is behind that. If you drink bleach willingly, I think you did it to yourself. Like, in the nicest way possible. You did it to yourself. And, yeah, you just figure it out on your own. Obviously, a lot of people can't. That's why they go to hospitals. I'm just saying you're overwhelming the medical facilities that actually are needed to help, stop the spread of the coronavirus. And you have these idiots coming out of here saying, oh, my president said I was going to inject Clorox, so, that's what I'm going to do. And then you do it and you end up in hospital. Complete idiot. All of them are so dumb. They all fall into the same boat for me, and I just could care less for them. But anyways, so I wonder right now if I actually will be able to figure out how to get someone on a call next week. And I'm just talking really to myself, but I think I'm going to try to. I just don't know how it's going to work. This is why it'd be so nice if I had the our former administrator here to walk me through it or do it for me. But you know what? I'm happy. I'm fine. This doing a solo podcast here and there once a week has turned out great, I think. So far, anyways. So I think it's really good. I wanted to actually go through, because I have all this time. I was thinking about it. Go back and pick up all, the errors over the first 2 seasons that we've made, whether it was my ex-co-host or ex-administrator who made. Find all the errors and make like a worst of, and just throw that up. But that has, for a while, we were making like 1.5-hour podcasts, and it would take so long to listen to all of that, and pick out and cut out and edit the errors all together. And I think it would be ridiculously cool and fun to do, but I think it would be long and tedious. So maybe that'll be a project I take on. See how many different errors we've done. I think I've gotten better week after week. I think I continue to get better. Not to boost my ego, but I'm just saying, I think even when my 2 ex-colleagues were here, I think we were all getting better, speaking, talking, all that, making less errors and all that. But I think it would be fun to go back and see all the stupid mistakes that we made. My ex-co-host is zoning out about a Clayton Kershaw curveball. There's one. Me stuttering. Me using the same turn of phrase like 6 times in an episode. That'd fit into that. But I think maybe that'll be something that I'll work on. So with that all being said, I think this is going to turn out great, at least in my own eyes. I think I got to figure out how to get the thumbnail to work. And I think beyond that, I'm going to go spend the next couple hours seeing if I can edit this all together. I always wanted to use sound bites. I haven't figured out how to include sound bites in this yet. That's really disturbing to me. I really got to figure out how to add sound bites into this because I think it's what makes it entertaining. Not that this is going to be some great podcast anyways, but I think that's what makes shows entertaining. And I really want to figure that out. My homemade little setup here, I got to figure out how to add sound bites. But anyways, I'll try and figure that out. But with that all being said and being talked about, I think you should go enjoy the NFL draft. I think your team, no matter what team it is, has picked some really, really good players. And I think, in the future it's bright for everyone, inside and outside the NFL. I mean, so yeah, I guess that means you'll probably talk to me next week.